feel there's a very childlike desire in regards to giant robots and wrecking shit up. It has the same attraction for games like GTA and Saints Row. It feels damn good causing some mayhem, and without thinking too deeply on that subject, it's precisely the reason why Slave Zero is worth playing. Is it simplistic? Oh absolutely, it's about as direct and unapologetically basic as a game could get, which adds to the old bombastic charm that still holds up, warts and all. Set in the futuristic city of Megacity S19, Chan is a member of the Guardians, a resistance group opposing the planetary rule of the Sovkhan, a bad guy that does equally bad things with his unstoppable mech army. As the game begins, the Guardians have uploaded Chan into a recently captured slave, an extremely powerful mech unit that's their best chance at defeating the Sovkhan and freeing mankind. Not sure you uploaded someone, but whatever. As the titled Slave Zero, you'll battle your way through Mega City in the Khan's army, causing enough collateral damage to begin wondering whether the ends justify the means, with a giant robot murdering hundreds of civilians. The Mega City itself is where you'll spend the game, most of the time scaling the multitude of rooftops and factories that litter your path. Most folks will be immediately reminded of Blade Runner for the nighttime cyberpunk atmosphere and Judge Dredd's Mega City 1's general aesthetic layout. Your interaction with the city isn't particularly deep, but it feels alive with vibrant, detailed buildings and cars rolling past. The minuscule pedestrians give a nice sense of scale. You really feel like an unstoppable war machine as you stomp on them. There are some really cool dynamic touches. When standing on a road, cars will crash, eventually piling up, with the civvies freaking out once they see you. Now that I really think about it, those were the only times stuff like that happened. But that doesn't matter, because you're going to be making a whole lot of carnage, essentially turning every street corner into a battle zone thanks to the fast, frenetic gameplay. Slave Zero doesn't offer up a complex layout of controls, hotkeys, and orders you can issue, like other mech games. If you play the most basic third-person shooter, you'll know exactly how to play. The actual key count is slightly over half a dozen. Run, shoot, jump, pudge, grab, and switch weapons. Everything else is automatic. You jump near ledges to climb them, and picking up items is done when walking over them. You can run forward, but there's no need to. Why? Because just strafing left to right is a much faster form of movement in contrast to the sluggish trot. So thanks to the enclosed environments, prepare to hold down the A and D keys a lot. Like any TPS, the camera has to be good, especially in a game where it could easily fuck up the entire experience. And for the most part, it works. The camera maintains a steady point of view and only occasionally gets lost in the constant movement, but for 99, you won't hear me complaining. From just my overview of the game's controls, you can pretty much deride whether or not you're going to enjoy playing the game, because from the opening to the end, it's just one giant firefight. This leads into Slave Zero's greatest weakness that will turn most people off. Just how linear and straightforward it all is. Objectives have you reaching the end of the area while occasionally destroying something. That's it. Purely from a level design view, it's a bland game with the occasional vertical climbing sections or arena-like areas. But if watching dozens of mechs getting blown apart sound good, then you're in luck, because that's the game in a nutshell. You have three types of armaments: missiles, machine guns, and energy weapons that you can swap out for better models. Your starting machine pistol and slow-firing rocket launcher aren't all that good, but you'll quickly scrounge up better gear. In that regard, it's the only real point of exploring the environment. The opposition scales in step, from the foot soldiers you blast away to the giant walking behemoths with homing rockets. Enemies will be constantly on the attack, damning any sense of tactics besides firing at you. The design and aesthetic appearance does keep them varied and interesting throughout, however. The game's bosses are a lot of fun to fight, in part to their scale and difficulty, though some were lazily designed like the dropships you fight every so often. Definition of filler right there. Blowing up a mech and watching the remains scatter across the screen never gets old, thanks to the great particle effects, adding a nice level of appeal to the otherwise standard combat. The big issue with Slave Zero is that it lacks adequate balancing. Some weapons are very useful, while others are a complete waste of time. Some of the later weapons are better off ignored. Problem is, you automatically pick them up, because the game considers them a higher level weapon tier, which can potentially screw you over hard. This energy weapon consumes ammo rapidly, but doesn't inflict the necessary damage to be a worthwhile tool. Doesn't matter because you're still going to be picking it up because the game thinks it's a better weapon. The only way you can get around this is by adjusting the options so you can pick up all weapons, thus using the better, earlier items. Unfortunately, now you're stuck with picking up every crappy weapon you come across. It wrecks the pacing since you have to now stop, walk back, and pick up your preferred weapon once you accidentally change. All of this could have been avoided if they just had a button to pick up shit instead of this automatic garbage. Then there's the difficulty, which is another stumbling block. The game allows you to manually save at any time, but lacks any sort of quick save feature, forcing you into the menu to save, breaking the flow. Large portions of Slave Zero are insanely easy. They'll give you an OP machine gun or rocket launcher that just obliterates everything in the ensuing couple of hours, then suddenly you're slammed against a wall by enemies that can hit you through cover. What the fuck? Or everything is going smoothly, then psych, you fall into a bottomless pit. Or even better, you start a level with barely any health, dying over and over again. The game also suffers clipping issues and other technical shortcomings, which shows a real lack of polish, all culminating with a glitchy, poorly made climax with levels that crash all the fucking time and a boss that is flat out impossible to beat unless you have the right weapons. I may have only mentioned them briefly, but god, these problems are persistent bastards, derailing the fun and challenge of the game, which becomes almost non-existent at some points. But I can't wholly recommend it when taking into account the myriad of conflicting design issues. If you're like me and just want to play a giant robot wrecking other giant robots, then awesome. But if you're wanting depth and complex mechanics a la Armored Core and MechWarrior, then no cigar here.